Dr. Jessica Ash here. I have the honor of having Cecilia Pagkalinawan with me, and she's here to discuss her business, Dance4aCause. Thanks for being here today, Cecilia.
Hi, Jessica. Is it okay for me to call you Jessica, or you prefer
Of course.
Dr. Ash?
No, of course. Call me
Okay.
Jessica or Jessie. So tell
Okay.
me a
Hi,
little bit
Jessie.
about your background.
Well, I was born in the Philippines, immigrated to the United States when I was 8 with my family, including 3 brothers and a sister, and grew up, became a US citizen at age 15, and have traveled the world. I fell into technology at the right time when it was emerging, and started working at Y&R and helped clients build websites, and then worked for a startup that went public doing websites, and
Wow.
e-commerce came about. Yeah, and then e-commerce came about, and I had a Foot Locker as a client, and they wanted a website, so built the first Foot Locker and Champs website for e-commerce, and eventually started my own e-commerce consulting firm, Boutique Y3K, which was venture backed in 2000. Then,
Amazing.
yeah, I was actually the first, so supposedly West Coast. At that time, West Coast VCs did not invest in East Coast companies because it was not, serious enough. But I was able to get a $12 million investment from Vantage Point Venture Partners.
Wow.
Um, and my first client was Nine West, so we built Nine West's e-commerce site, and went from there. And in 2003, I actually, we suffered during the dot-com crash, and we had to shut down the business, and but was immediately hired by an Israeli-based startup, and then got hired by Burberry to launch their e-commerce site. So I was launched Burberry's e-commerce business basically. Then got hired by a and I got hired by JH Partners, who basically private equity out of San Francisco, to be VP of e-commerce and marketing for 2 Italian brands they acquired, Frette and La Perla.
Wow.
Then so I sort of did like the startup thing, then corporate thing, and then I started another startup called Style Trek, which featured emerging designers around the world. And we crowdsourced and invited designers from around the world to submit, and we chose 25 from everywhere from Brazil to Bali and Denmark to submit their work, and then we put them on this e-commerce platform and started selling their clothes. So at one point we were selling to 99 countries, and for some reason though it was very difficult to raise additional funding, and I was, most businesses, it's hard to get past like the seed round or even get seed funding. So I just kind of folded it and then continued to consult, and then did another startup called
Wow.
Cloud, which is an app that was in 2014, an app that allows you to tip musicians. They called it an Instagram for musicians, but you can tip artists. Then so I've been consulting ever since and incubating startups. I've also consulted with Nike's Valiant Labs, where they incubate new companies prior to bringing it into corporate, like new ideas, and quite a few amazing projects. But mostly I've also committed to helping women-owned businesses and women entrepreneurs, because I feel like we need to do as much as possible to help one another and support one another. And I'm very much for equal pay. I did an article for LinkedIn that was widely distributed on equal pay and how do we get it. And many women around the world posted it on their Pinterest boards. and got emails how much it's helped them, from big companies from Silicon Valley to big corporations, where women joined forces and decided to negotiate for equal pay. So I feel very good about that. And I got a little bit of a backlash though, because I'm one of the 7 women who spoke out in 2017 on CNN to report about sexual harassment in tech. And I spoke out because I experienced it fundraising as far back as 2000. And I felt like if we didn't speak out now and know that it was fairly common and rampant, it would never change. And more young women, and at that point, my nieces were just entering college, and I couldn't imagine them entering the workforce and having to deal with this without even being prepared at all. So yeah, so anyway, so now I was actually consulting for a private equity firm on 2 menswear Italian brands when around that time COVID hit.
Okay.
And actually no, I was consulting for Nike right after that. And but right before that, I somehow get lucky, very lucky on so many things. And the reason am I saying this too long, my intro? Because I'm progressing.
I am wrapped.
Chronologically.
I can't even think of any questions to ask. I'm just absolutely riveted to your story. Really. So keep going. I don't need to ask you anything. You're doing great.
Oh, okay. So I've always been a storyteller, and it's always something I enjoyed. So for all my projects, the websites, I would write the copy, and people, would never know. Like I got a phone call after I left Burberry saying, "Who's your copywriter? We need the copywriter." I said, "Me." So I write, I do content. A lot of the websites that I've done included original content where we would interview key people and influencers and feature them, and also produce videos. So while I was Rita Hazan, the hairdresser and the hair care brand, was a client, so helped her launch her business when she was going on Sephora with the product that helps you not have to go to a salon to get your roots done. And interviewed her, wrote the script, produced all these videos. So I really enjoy the video aspect of it and the storytelling aspect of it. So right before COVID hit, a friend of mine was going to Kenya, Africa, and she's a surgeon who has a foundation also, which helps they do operations on neglected surgical diseases. And what those are is, in rural areas around the world, you'll see many people with a cleft palate.
Yes.
You'll see many people with misshapen legs from polio, or hernia, or cataracts, or hernias, and also fistulas. So she has a foundation that allows you that commits to training local doctors. So it's not like where before doctors just step in and do operations and then leave, and there's no follow-ups, and it's sustainable. And then so she invited me to go to Kenya to do a story on her, a documentary on her, and Summit Institute from Summit Series funded it. And I said, can I also do this work on a woman I met last year in Kenya. I met Agnes in New York after the UN Commission on the Status of Women. And I found out that since 2005, she had rescued over 250 girls from child marriage and FGM. And she invited me to visit her in Kenya. So I said, well, while we're in Kenya, can we visit the school? Can I see these girls? Can I visit Agnes? Because I want to see what this is all about. So after that, we drove down 5 hours from Meru to Kajiado, and visited Agnes and the girls, and it totally transformed and changed my life. And
so let me highlight that.
We shot. Oh,
Yeah, I want to highlight that
Sure.
for one moment. So after you've made all of these amazing accomplishments and you're really a trailblazer in so many industries, you then took a fondness for video with all of your creative storytelling and you went to Kenya and you made a documentary about the Khadija Girls. Is that correct?
Kajiado. So
Kajiado.
Kajiado is a county in southern Kenya where Amboseli National Park and Mount Kilimanjaro are.
Okay.
So yeah, so Kajiado. And I had a wonderful DP cinematographer, Megan Sullivan, with me. And we drove to Kajiado, got out, saw these girls in this school, cinder block, very plain buildings. And they were just so happy, and so happy to see us, and played with our hair and asked us a lot of questions, and super nice, and gave us a tour, and I
So
was
these
just
girls,
so impressed.
yeah, the other thing is that these girls have had a really hard background. They were victims of child marriage. For those of our viewers who don't know, FGM is female genital mutilation. So these girls have been through a lot. And what I'm hearing is resilience. They're resilient.
Yeah, I mean, so some of these girls were rescued at age 7. Most of them, it used to be that 13 was the age where girls were married into usually in exchange for cows and goats, because they come from very poor families and they marry off the girls to support the rest of the family or to have funds to send the boys to school. But girls are seen as basically
Go,
just,
chattel.
yeah, like farm animals. Cat, yes. And because of climate action, I mean climate change, and we'd be droughts, and there would be less food for the cattle to eat, so they would die. The girls started getting married off younger and younger, and so some as young as 7 now. And somehow Agnes was able to circulate throughout all of these communities that if there were girls who needed to be rescued, that this was the number. She gave her personal number, and since 2005 activated the rescue of over 250 girls, who then, because at that point once they're rescued, they're orphans, who then have to be put in school, and so and these to live and study. And when I say boarding school, it's not like boarding schools in the United States where they're fancy and have the best,
No, the most
soccer
basic,
fields, and
right?
very basic. And most places the girls sleep on the floor of the classrooms. But in Kajiado, this primary school we went to, they actually had dormitories. And so I got to meet some of these girls and I got to interview them, and heard their stories, from a recent rescue to and Alice, who was apparently the smartest girl in the school. She was so brilliant and bright. She was the one that gave me a tour. And to Rose, who had recently graduated from college after 7 years, 7 years after she was rescued, and never met Agnes, never knew who was her benefactor. And when she called that number and she was rescued 7 years prior, immediately she was told to walk 2 hours to a location where she needed to get picked up, because of course, she had to be taken somewhere where her family wouldn't
Right.
know where she was, because otherwise they would try to get her and bring her back to the husband she was married off to. And then got her picked up, had to find a safe house for her. Then from the safe house, also find a permanent host who would open their home to her and allow her to live with them as a member of their family and be sent to school. So basically, that's what happened to Rose. And she never met Agnes, and she just knew Agnes was her benefactor, and she would go to school. And she told of a story of one time she had a growth spurt and she couldn't fit into her shoes. And rather than asking Agnes for more money, she just walked barefoot. And I think it was at least a 45-minute walk to and from school every day.
Wow.
And she walked barefoot rather than having to ask for more money, because that's how grateful she was to for what Agnes was doing for her. And so yes, a rose is in the documentary, and
So I've
Elizabeth,
shared,
and
go ahead.
no, it's just as I'm saying this, I'm just, you know, envision and seeing the girls again, how they were talking, and how smart and bright and kind and humble and so grateful they were just to be where they were. And you have to understand, they're not allowed to leave their premises. Can you imagine, for since from for girls sometimes for 7, 8 years, never leaving the premises of probably 4 or 5 acres? That's where
And
they play, that's where they go to school, that's where they sleep.
and beyond that, though, they've gone through so much already. And they're so filled. What I'm also hearing from you is just gratitude. And I'll tell you, Cecilia, I work with a lot of very privileged students, and they sit in classrooms sometimes and just go, this is kind of stupid. So these very, it's such a dichotomy. There are these very privileged, wealthy children who have access to college education in the United States, which is so expensive, and they're not grateful, period. Yet you have these girls who have been through so much, and they're not allowed to move from a 4-acre area, and they're just filled with gratitude.
Yes, and if you were to see them, so I was mesmerized and like in awe that for $200 a year, these girls can go to school, live there, includes room and board, eat, and includes their uniform. So in order for the school to accept these girls after they've been rescued, they want to at least have the $200 covered. So sometimes they would rescue girls because the girls, they would get a phone call and there would be a safe house with 3 girls on standby until they can raise the $200 to send these girls to school. So Agnes, who runs the program and runs Ilaramatech Community Concerns, and she's the leading, I would say, voice against FGM and child marriage in Kenya. She just makes it happen. And can you imagine? She also has 2 sons that all of your family funds. And, you know, fortunately, she's been able to rally other women and other supporters around her. They have like an underground railroad of WhatsApp, where as soon as a girl gets rescued, they'd say, we just rescued a girl. This is her. This is what her name is. And do we have money to send her to school? And then someone sends the money to send them to school. And that's kind of how they were able to do it for over 15 years. I mean, 20 years, more than 20 years. And so it was just the kindness and goodness of all of these people that just wanted to provide help girls have a home and provide them for an education. And when you see this the video, all the girls have shorn hair. Like in the United States, to have even a haircut, it costs $200 sometimes, and get your hair dyed and colored or braided or whatever. These girls have none of that. I think they live in their uniforms all the time. They might have like 1 or 2 spare t-shirt or shorts, so the uniforms are very worn and drab. And but still, they would sing, they would dance, they would joke, they would be so animated when telling each other stories, and laugh and dance. And when I went, they didn't even have internet connection, and they definitely don't have TV or cable.
Right.
So they relied on each other to entertain themselves and to support one another. So they have a very, very tight knit bond. And it was just so lovely to see how girls who have so little would be so happy. And then, what it is, a lot of them got rescued after they've been married off, after they've been cut, where they were hurt and miserable and in pain. And so they're just happy to get out of the situations they were in. And and
Well,
so I
it's
guess that's where the joy comes from, just being so grateful to have a life.
yes, and the story is really inspiring. I did share the trailer on my page. Where can people see the whole documentary?
So I'm actually still producing it and directing it. We have 80% of the footage shot when we were in Kajiado 1 year ago. But we were going to come back until lockdown happened to shoot an actual rescue, where we wanted to track Agnes getting a phone call, Agnes activating her car, that like
See the
very
whole
dilapidated car, to yeah, to see the whole cycle, pick them up, buy them a mattress, because when they come in, they have to have a mattress, get them the uniform, bring them to the school, and integrate them with the rest of the girls, and see how the rest of the girls welcome them and make them feel loved and safe.
like a new family.
And yes, like a new family. So that was the only thing we needed to do. And then lockdown happened. And I was able to actually edit the trailer for $750, because by this point, as much as possible, I would send whatever money I had to Kenya, to Agnes. And even while there was a girl named Arby. She's not in the trailer at all. She was 7.
7 years old.
She was 7 years old. So she was married off. And because of the FGM, and also possibly because of when young girls have sex too young, their reproductive and all the organs down there get
Can be
affected.
damaged.
So she had no bladder or bowel control, which is basically a lot of the girls that were rescued post FGM have that problem. And so the wife of the main wife, or whoever's makes the decisions in the household, um, tied Arby to a tree. Like they basically treated her like a dog, because she stank and she would wet and poo on herself, and they didn't want to take care of her. So she was effectively rescued that way. And while I was in Kenya, while I was in Meru doing the first documentary, meeting doctors who were giving cleft palate operations, donating their time for that, I got the call about Arby, that she needed care. And since Agnes knew I was in a hospital, one of the best hospitals in Kenya, could they bring Arby there for care? And I said, okay. And talked one of the doctors to come in on his day off to see her. And I was there for the examination, and met her mother, and just
What do you
and
say to
found
her
out
mother? I mean, do you have empathy for the mother?
so here's the thing, like the mother was basically can't speak English, illiterate, cannot read. So the mother herself was married off young and given no education. So she was just happy to see her daughter back, because clearly it wasn't her that made that decision.
Okay. So
It was the husband.
did Arby, that's her name, right? Did she get a surgery? Did she get some surgeries to help her?
Yeah, so fortunately I had attended a Kindernet conference in Venice, Italy, the August before, and I was in this live chat with amazing human beings who are humanitarians and just kind people. And I posted in that chat, I said, by the way, I'm in Kenya. Here is a picture of this girl. And I told them a little bit about her story. Basically, we need $300 for her operation, and also insurance. because after the operation, she would need follow-up care, and if she didn't have the parents, if her mother didn't have that money, that would just nothing would happen. So within an hour, I had a woman from Slovenia who sent me $50, and then a man from Italy who sent me $300 on behalf of his children. And the woman from Slovenia was a game developer, and the man from Italy was formerly COO of Giorgio Armani,
Wow.
and just gave the money, and we're able to. So Arby couldn't get the operation right away because she had an infection in her blood that had to be treated before she did this. And then, but I guess what? Like last week, no, 2 weeks ago, I was sent. I got a phone call from her mother, and I was sent a photo of RB dancing. I have a video of RB dancing. I want to send it to you so we can post it later on your page.
Oh
And she was
yeah.
singing because she's now in school.
Oh my God. I really have the
So
shivers. I have the shivers. And I can't think of a better tribute to International Women's Day, which is tomorrow.
yes, and honestly, like I had a very stressful, sad week because Agnes was admitted to the hospital with COVID. So this is like my heroine, the subject of this documentary. And I was like, she cannot pass, and she
No.
needs to stay alive because we need to finish this documentary.
Right.
People need to know who this woman is, who is so kind and selfless. And by the way, I didn't tell you this part. Like in the trailer, there's people inside a building where there's sewing machines. So what she basically did was started hiring the women who do the genital cutting, the FGM cutters, and trained them for another vocation and got sewing machines. So they can cut the garment and not the girl.
I think
And
I saw that. That's amazing.
and so can you imagine? So apparently it takes $20. The women get paid $20 to cut a girl. So $20 to cut a girl, so she has to pay them for the information for every cut, like just so they don't even cut. And that's how she also gets to rescue them,
Okay.
how she finds out who's about to get cut.
And so to the listeners who are in the United States, it may be hard for them to understand why the elder women of a community who are the ones performing FGM on young girls. So what is it about the culture there that it is the elderly woman who are doing this to the girls? Why is it that way?
So culturally, it's positioned that it's an honor, and it makes the girls more valuable. They can get more cows and goats for the girls if they've been cut, because it's also the assurance of virginity. I actually spoke to one of the doctors whom I met, who basically said, and this is hard to swallow, FGM is still done in many countries to
Yeah.
hide sexual abuse. Um,
Oh,
and depending, and it's not, there's like 3 levels. It's not just the clitoris that gets cut. Sometimes the entire inside, the entire uterus gets sewn together.
that's just
And so
horrible.
what happens is then of course when there's intercourse, can you imagine
No, the
like
damage,
what
the
the
absolute damage.
damage, where it's torn, their insides get torn, and that's where they wind up having no bladder and bowel control.
Right.
Um, when Alice, one of the girls who gave us a tour of the school and the music room and the classrooms, then took us to their dorm rooms, I was like shocked by the smell, the stench. And I had asked later on what was wrong with the dormitories. Is there something wrong with the plumbing or the bathrooms? And they basically said that a lot of the girls who are rescued have lost their bowel
Yeah.
and bladder control. So they poop and pee throughout the night. So the mattresses are the ones that are have that odor. And it wasn't like one or two mattresses in this entire building of dorms and beds.
Most of
It
them.
was probably at least half, you know? And so one of the things, fortunately, I went with Dr. Henry, Jamie Henry. One of the things we want to do is to go back and fix the girls and help them
Yeah.
heal. Because Alice, one of the girls we interviewed,
So smart.
who's so smart, supposed to be a doctor, number one in her class, great at math and science, so animated. Like while I was interviewing her, I said, "So, what do you like to do other than, math and science?" She said, "Well, you see that bracelet you have on your wrist?" And I said, "Yes." She said, I could make you one 10 times more beautiful than that." And she was so like, proud of herself
Right. Self-confident.
and clearly so proud and self-confident. And I happened to have like a box of these beads that I was going to bring over to Ilara Matak for the older women so they can make things. I wanted to work with Agnes on making that. The main reason I was there was actually so Agnes can employ more of these women that were genital cutters
Right.
by having, and I brought throw pillows. So I wanted to use Kenyan African textile throw pillows and have them bead the throw pillows so I can sell them online and help girls get rescued. And the content I was going to shoot there was supposed to be just like for social media. I didn't know that I would learn all of these things. It was supposed to be for social media so we can sell these pillows and fabric. And then so I wind up giving half the beads to Alice, who also shared with me that she was really worried about her 9-year-old sister, because her sister, she was 9 when she was married off, and that her sister was turning 9 soon. So I said to her, "If you make me necklaces and bracelets with these beads and we sell them, we'll get your sister." So I gave her a lot of beads, like a big box. And I thought it was going to take like 2 weeks at least for her to finish them. I got a phone call 2 a.m. that night
She'd finished a
that
bunch.
she had finished them. She finished all of it. That's how urgent and how urgent she felt about getting her sister out. So then I go back into this WhatsApp group and say, "I have these, necklaces.
To sell.
Who'd be interested in buying one? So we can raise the $200 to rescue her sister." And a friend from India basically said, "Here it is."
Wow.
So I've been wearing. I'm actually down to 2 necklaces. I've given a necklace to other people who've given me $200, and I'm saving it for him. Sanjeev
Wow.
Goyal is his name,
What's his name?
and Sanjeev Goyal. And he doesn't. I think he might not know that I still have a necklace for him. But Alice gave a video. I'll share I'll show you all these videos. I'll show you the
Yeah.
video of Alice of RB dancing. I'll share you the video of Alice thanking Sanjeev to for helping her for buying the jewelry, and you should see how elated she was. And then I also have pictures of Alice's sister when she was brought to the school. And what was amazing was the mother came to the school. Alice's mother, who she hadn't seen in over 5 years, came to the school with the sister because they were able to preempt the marriage
All of it.
and the cutting by saying, "We have a place at the school for her. So she can't, doesn't have to be a burden for you anymore," you know?
Wow.
And that part I don't have on camera. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so I just have the pictures after. a week after we left, they were able to get her. And can you imagine, like,
So the other thing I want to highlight here, so there's so many stories within the story, and I meet people every day who say, I can't do that. It doesn't matter where like I was in class in Baghdad yesterday, and I said, if you want to reduce your shyness, then speak with the camera on. And she goes, oh, I can't do that. And everywhere I go, people say, oh, I can't do that. I'm working in the Congo, and there are these, I've been counseling and working with this NGO and training all of the volunteers. And the first time we met, these women were just like, give me money. I can't do anything. I've been raped. Just give me money. And they were very morosely sad, and they were definitely victims, but they had that victim mentality. And the girls you're talking about have the opposite. So I worked with this NGO for months and months and months. And finally, the ladies are dancing, selling vegetables. So they're feeding their community sustainably. They're feeding their own family, which includes the children of rape. And it's called community self-reliance. And what you're doing and what these girls are doing is learning to become self-reliant. And she's not saying, I can't make beaded necklaces. She's so, even though this young girl has had so many bad things happen to her, the minute she's given an opportunity, she seizes it. That's the attitude.
seized it. And I mean, okay, I'm gonna like get I'm gonna put the phone down for a bit. I'm just gonna get one of the necklaces.
Okay. So while she goes to get one of the necklaces, I'll tell you that Cecilia Pagkalinawan is also the founder of Dance4aCause, and we will talk about that soon. But in light of tomorrow being International Women's Day, the idea that these girls are so resilient and they're working, they don't say, I can't make a necklace, they just do it. Let me see this necklace. Oh wow, it's really beautiful.
So rose quartz crystal.
Yeah.
So for love. And I chose these colors of these beads. I also have them in blue, but this one's the green yellow version. And I wanted it to reflect nature, sun, and greenery. And when you visit the school, it's kind of barren and drab because but you'll see that some of the trees that are there, but it's dry. And it was also interesting and kind of unfortunate to find out that out of 8 buildings at the school grounds, only one building had a roof that was capable of capturing rainwater, because the other 7 were made with lead, so they couldn't drink the water coming from those. So many things could be fixed at the school. When you think about how can you run a school and have all of these girls, over 150 girls, be there for $200 a year. And this is a primary school. We didn't even get a chance to go to the high school. Right. And so basically very basic food. They take shortcuts. The roof of the school, some of them leak. That music room where they were playing the keyboard in the trailer, it's the size of a closet. It was basically as wide as the keyboard, and the girls to be in there were inside the doorway, so you can't even dance and sit in there. So one of my things I want to do is also fix the roof, create a new building where we can equip it with musical equipment and also enough space for the girls to dance. So because you see in the video, these girls were dancing and were so joyous. I basically said before they started dancing, I said, hi, I'm Cecilia. I'm here from New York. And my mother named me after the patron saint of music, Saint Cecilia. And I love to listen to music and dance. And then I said, and then all of a sudden I said, like, oh, I love to dance too. And I said, well, show me. So all of a sudden they put some video on, and some music
Very
on and
touching.
started to dance. And I was just like so elated to connect with them in this way because dance is universal. We only had one camera, so there was no camera on me where I was dancing along with them too. And then and somebody said, "Oh, I love music too. I play music." I said, "Oh, can you take me?" And they said, "Yeah, come." So we all left the classroom and went to this closet where she started playing, the piano. And I was just like, wow, like this is what they do. They had how they entertain each other, how they share, how they gift to each other, how that's and basically they were self-taught in terms of playing the organ and music and everything. It just blew my mind that what they can do with so little. And I think I bought my son three guitars, like a bass, an electric, and then uh what do you call it, acoustic guitar. And I was thinking, like, imagine if I gave these girls those three guitars, what could they do to it? And part of it is the kids in the US, especially my son who grew up in New York, have so many options. Like they go places, they hang out with their friends, they're on TikTok, they're on Snapchat.
Right.
And, can you imagine if you had none of that and you just had a guitar?
When I
How
was a
much?
kid, I mean, I didn't go through something like that, but when I was a kid, I played guitar on the tennis racket, pretending with my
Yeah.
brother, and we would dance. Like, we didn't have the entertainment that we have now. And so improvisation is a great tool.
Yeah, and then I know a lot of musicians, so I started reaching out to friends to see if they would be willing to include the girls' voices and in some of their tracks to
Yeah.
help raise money. So I was in the midst of working on all of this stuff until lockdown happened. So I have much to do when we're like finally able to fly and I
Yeah,
can go
yeah,
back to
you
Kenya.
do. So you're giving us a story of great hope, and even though in the face of this horrible sadness, and I wanted to say, yes, last weekend and then tomorrow, after I watched the trailer of the Khadija Girls, I started weaving it into a speech I gave on for women's rights, and then I'm continuing to refine this speech tomorrow. And I'm speaking in India and Bangladesh and Pakistan. And I'm just saying things like, so in Pakistan, women aren't allowed out of their house. And I have this story, I'm weaving it into a story, but I say, if you live in a place where women aren't allowed out of the house, that has nothing to do with my culture. It's called oppression. And you don't know what joy you're missing. Because if you switch from oppressing women to creating a space where they're happy to be, there's joy beyond belief. And I talk about FGM as, a woman is a mind and a heart and a body. And if you're destroying her body, that's not your culture. Don't, I'm known as the defender of culture all over the world. Bangladesh, it doesn't matter where. I am about decolonization, revitalizing culture. And I was really afraid that I was going to get a lot of negative hits. But I want you to know, Cecilia, that even though I'm saying all this stuff, like, stop FGM, don't tell me it's your culture. It's called, it's abuse. That's it. And it went viral. And so there is this message it's on the rise. Like, we can say these things in these places and not get a negative backlash. So that's good news.
Yeah, I mean, even when my son was born and chose to have him circumcised, I had friends that were adamant not to do it, adamant. Except I asked my brothers, and I actually had a grandfather who didn't want my brothers to get circumcised, and so they got circumcised quite late. Like one brother at 12, another at 8, another at
Oh, wow.
4, and I don't even know. I think it was a lot of peer pressure. It must have been like my brother was teased or something. I don't remember the story why all of a sudden they had to get circumcised. But when I had my son, I was 18. I had friends who were like, "Don't do it. Don't. It's barbaric." But I asked my brothers, and they said, you just have to do it. You know, it's part of our culture. They do it in the Catholic faith in the Philippines for
Right.
some reason. I found out later on that the Catholics that migrated and settled in the Philippines as part of the Spanish occupation for 400 years were actually formerly conversos. So the Filipinos in the Philippines do circumcision, and they don't eat meat on Fridays. So it's another other thing, but another topic. But um, but yeah. So even that as a tradition is being questioned. So can you imagine when girls' entire inner organs are being torn apart
Yeah, in the name of culture. But
in the
it's
name of culture? Well, the thing is, oh, sorry.
no, no, go ahead.
So I was listening into an FGM talk on Clubhouse a week or two ago, and they were just talking about losing pleasure. And so people are dismissive oftentimes at FGM, like, oh, so what? Girls don't can't have pleasure when they have intercourse, which is bad enough.
Right.
That's bad enough in its own. But to be so gutted, literally gutted, to lose your bowel and bladder control, and never even. And can you imagine what childbirth is like after you've had a FGM? So those are some of the things stories we haven't yet told, you know. So, and part of it is people think, oh, it's just, you know, girls not able to have pleasure. That's why they're no, it's worse than that. It's much worse than that. Girls who are embarrassed to go to school. Girls like
Right.
Alice, who's the brightest girl, was so sad about having to eventually graduate. She should be so proud and happy that she's going to graduate 8th grade because she was so afraid of high school. How would these girls tease her if they can tolerate her when she has her bowel movements in class? You know, will
Yeah.
she, or sit in college? So this is why, beyond stopping FGM, beyond ending child marriage, also um, being able to repair these girls, so they can truly not just have an education, but truly a bright future where they can walk into a room, not feel embarrassed that they might have a bowel movement and get teased and lose all of the respect for from their peers.
Yeah. This has been really elucidating for my viewers. And although we're talking about something that is so sad, what I'm hearing from you is a lot of hope. And I'm trying to tell you that there's hope on the other side. And I'll let you know how my speech goes tomorrow. Hopefully, the entire country of Pakistan won't shut me down for saying, let your women out of the house. We'll see.
I mean, I understand why they won't let the women out of the house, not even to like
They can't go to the
farm
grocery store.
food, not even to get water. They can't go to
Yeah.
grocery store.
No, they're not allowed to go to another woman's house to have tea. Adult women aren't allowed to
I
leave the
mean,
house.
it's so sad because supposedly domestic violence and abuse has increased by at least 40%, and in some countries, like way more during
Astronomical.
the pandemic. And more women lost their jobs. More women, because small and medium-sized businesses have shut down. More women have shut down their businesses, whether they're nail salons or restaurants or whatever. And so much has to be done. It's like if any of your viewers, we all survived the pandemic, and we all um, need to get going to help fix the problems. Honestly, we just have to help one person at a time. And in the beginning, I felt so overwhelmed about all the things that need to get done. But you know what? As soon as I got that video of RB dancing and being told she actually was well enough to go to school, that just made my day, made
Yeah,
my year, you know, like to know
absolutely.
one person you could help. And I didn't even pay for it. I just like the facilitator, you know. I just told
Right.
a tiny story and was able to help one girl. So I'm just so looking forward to being able to finish this documentary. Um, you know, we're I was in the process of actually raising money to finish it. Summit Institute paid for the shoot that we did in Kenya. We have to raise money for the rescue and then for the edit, and hopefully enter it and get distribution for it. That it's going to be good enough to get distribution and raise money for the girls, and raise awareness. Really understand
Right.
what needs to get done, because I think over 15 million
You
who are
broke
alive
up.
in FGM at some point. But don't hold me to that. There's some data. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Can
can
you
hear
hear
you.
me?
15 million? What did you say? How many million?
I don't know what the data is for, yeah, around the world, but somehow, somewhere, I think are alive right now have had FGM. And so can you imagine all those lives impacted, all those women and girls? I mean, I remember being in high school and you had a pimple and you made, ruined your day. You know what I mean? Like, um, these girls just
I get
are
it.
trying to live their lives and unable to, you know, really move forward.
This is a
There
lot
are
larger
some
than,
survivors.
that's a lot larger than just a pimple.
Exactly. But we can all do our part, like, so
Let's put a, after
you
this
asked me before about
post.
Dance4aCause.
Oh yeah, tell me about Dance4aCause. That's what we were supposed to talk about.
Well, I had COVID. So right after I came back from Kenya in March, I was working on everything, and then I got COVID and survived it. And I had long haul COVID. I had sore throat, chest pain, dizziness, even until May. So 3 months later, I still had symptoms. And I thought, I'm so lethargic still. And I said, I feel like I'm probably going to die. Like, I know, at that point, very little was known about it. And I had been to Tulum the year before and always wanted to come back, and just randomly went on Airbnb and saw that because of COVID, prices dropped this crazily. And there was a tree house that was across the street from the beach that I could rent for $1,000 a month. And my New York rent, I mean,
Yeah.
New York was ridiculous. I mean, I used to have a very good job, well-paying job. So my New York rent was 4,300.
Yeah.
And I was able to offset half of it by Airbnb-ing a bedroom. And was 4,300. And I said, I can go to Tulum and be across the street from the beach and live in a tree house for $1,000 a month, and included breakfast and 2 bicycles for me and my son. So I booked it for a month, and $200 ticket, everything, dropped. And then came here. And guess what? Within 5 days of being in Tulum, my sore throat, my chest pain, everything went away. I found out later on that it was vitamin D deficiency, plus, lack of fresh air. So by being indoors, we're actually being harmed.
Yeah.
Um, Thin people in particular need more sun, because vitamin D is stored in fat. So if you don't have fat, you don't have storage of vitamin D, and you need it every day. So learned this actually. A friend of mine who was in Lombardia, childhood friend of mine who was sick for her bed. I said, please just go outside, keep your mask on, go outside, sit in the sun. And she said she was like near death, all the symptoms, was ready to just give in. And she did that. Like a simple thing in the sun for a couple of hours can help you recover from COVID. So within 5 days, all of a sudden it was like, had energy, I had no dizziness, I was able to ride bikes and bike 30 minutes to the grocery store, when that I wouldn't have been able to even bike like 2 blocks. I would get so tired. And so July happens, and friends of mine who were my last Airbnb guests in New York until it shut down, they're from France. I'm sure, hey, during the pandemic, we got permission to do a performance from an island, a UNESCO site in the Loire Valley. Can you help us market it and promote it?
Wow. That's
And I said, okay, but like, and I said, can we do it for a cause? Can we raise money for something? They said, sure. And they're, very much into the environment and stopping climate action, climate change. And I happened to have met Blondish, who started a foundation called Bye Bye Plastic. And I reached out to her and I said, would you be interested in having us raise money for Bye Bye Plastic as part of our Dance4aCause? And she said yes. So all of a sudden we had access to her marketing team, her promotions team out of Holland and Amsterdam, and also her manager from the UK. And then I was here in Tulum. And our goal was just to get people up and dancing, because we also understood that, a lot of people were getting depressed. So dancing activates dopamine and your blood flow, and it helps oxygenate your blood, even a little bit of movement. So our goal was to get people up and dancing, and that's what happened. So Dance4aCause was born. Actually, it was reborn because in 2013, I did a Dance4aCause at Output nightclub in New York City with Q-Tip DJing, promoted by Giants Den, for Typhoon Haiyan, to raise money for typhoon victims in the Philippines to help them rebuild it.
Wow.
So here we're able to raise money for through Dance4aCause for Bye Bye Plastic. And we did a Friendsgiving dinner here in Tulum. We couldn't do a proper Dance4aCause because of lockdown. So we did a Dine4aCause. So we raised money, and a friend of mine who's a musician from Feathered Sun, lead singer from Feathered Sun, Joke, who's from Berlin, was our chef. And we had to sit down. He also played music afterwards. And we raised money for the park here in Tulum, Centro Deportivo, where there are actually kids who are ranked 1, 2, and 3 in boxing for the Olympics, age 16 to 18. And they also have a judo team here that we wanted to raise money for, because they don't have the proper judo mats. So even though they're #1 in Mexico, when they travel, they compete, they can't have home games. Their mats are not regulation mats. So we're trying to raise money for that too. So little by little, we could do something. You just ask, what do they need? And you could add, and you can even make it fun. So Dance4aCause has a few projects in line right now. We're also partnering with Restore Coral to help replenish Mesoamerican coral reef from, a lot of problems from fertilizers and runoffs that are affecting coral reefs, and also with the warming of the seas and oceans. So there's a lot of statistics there. So part of it is what I love about being here in Tulum is that I was able to heal and recover. And guess what, though? When I went back that August for my son's graduation, I told you about, to New York, within 5 days in August, I got it back again. The sore throat, chest pain, and everything else. And it was because New York was in lockdown, and it was so hot that my friend who I was staying with had the windows foiled, so I had no sun at all. And then also I would walk in the shade with my dog, so I never got sun. So within 5 days, I had the same problems again.
Wow.
So we need sun, we need fresh air.
Yeah, I'm saying this all the time.
I can't do any things. Yeah. And,
So,
and just take care of ourselves, right? I mean, you look like you take care of yourself really well.
Yeah, I just went for a long walk with my dog. Even though it's like 30 degrees outside, I still go outside. I still get exercise. And, my students laugh, Cecilia, because when lockdown started, I started making these funny videos of getting exercise. And so there's video of me like on my chair doing squats, or doing like raising my dog above my head. And my students will say, oh, I can't exercise, COVID. And I'm like, that's nonsense. You can open your door and walk outside and get exercise. You can do that. And they just laugh at me. And then I did another one with Bollywood that I actually sent to that Bollywood actor today. And so I have a lot of friends from India, and I don't have a sari, but I have this casual female Indian outfit. And I made this Bollywood video with iMovie, and my students just laugh so hard. And I'm like, you have to physically move. You're not a brain on a brain transportation device. Every muscle needs to move. You're designed to need fresh air. And so I'm out here, trying to keep people moving in Ohio and China and Costa Rica and everywhere else. No excuses.
Yeah, no excuses. And I always loved yoga. I always did yoga and went to a studio and paid money for a studio to even go twice a week. Here, you can do it every day. Just do it yourself. And it's one of the gifts I've been able to give myself every day, is to be able to do yoga on my own with the poses and everything that feels good for my body. And we have more within ourselves, I think, and within our homes and our small rooms than that we can do than we can even imagine.
Yeah.
And oh, I would love for you to do a shout out to Magic Rise. My friend Raki Mehta started Magic Rise, which is out of Mumbai, and they get people dancing in Mumbai. They have
Oh yeah.
dancers, wellness instructors, Bollywood dancers, just to get people up and moving. It used to be a daytime party where they would actually have like a daytime party at sunrise and have people dance and do yoga and things. But Magic Rise has continued to thrive by doing, Zoom dance parties and getting people up and dancing, no matter how miserable, no matter how many, people around them were sick and losing, and dying. It was very important to keep mentally resilient. And dancing releases endorphins, cardio and releases endorphins, and it helps prevent depression. Same thing with walking in the sun. I didn't even know that walking barefoot or even just walking in the sun, seeing sunrises, releases oxytocin and serotonin. So all of those things naturally feel good and releases good hormones. You don't need drugs. You don't need pills to be able to do that. You can do it yourself.
Yeah. So I have to say that this video is going to be so long that it's not going to be processed properly, or, we're running a risk of that. So we're kind of in the near and end today. So after this posts, though, make comments down below about all of the links that you want people to see. You know what I mean?
Okay.
All right. Make comments. And then
I will.
And then I'll love to have you back when you get your computer up, and we'll make a higher quality HDMI version. All right. Let me know how I can help. All right.
Thank you so much, guys. It's really a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah,
Have a
wonderful
day, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.
Okay. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye, Cecilia.
Okay. Bye-bye.